Imagine waking up and discovering that over $81 million have vanished overnight from the digital vaults of one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the Middle East. Not because of a simple system error, nor because of an inside job, but due to a cyber attack so bold, so audacious, that the attackers left a taunting, expletive-laden digital signature for the world to see. This is not the plot of a Hollywood thriller. This is the real-life story of the Nobitex hack, an event that is rippling beyond the world of crypto, shaking global markets, and raising deep questions about the intersection of finance, technology, and geopolitics. Let's start at the beginning. Nobitex, the biggest crypto exchange in Iran, has become more than just a business. For millions of Iranians struggling under the weight of suffocating international sanctions, runaway inflation, and limited access to global banking, Nobitex has been a lifeline. It has enabled small business owners, students, professionals, and even families to bypass traditional financial barriers and connect with the digital global economy. In a place where wire transfers are often blocked and international credit cards are a distant dream, platforms like Nobitex have filled the void, offering hope and sometimes controversy. But opportunity and risk are two sides of the same coin, especially in the turbulent world of cryptocurrency. By design, crypto is borderless, pseudonymous, and at times notoriously difficult to trace. This makes exchanges like Nobitex irresistible targets for hackers, not just lone wolves in search of a payday, but also sophisticated, politically motivated groups playing a much bigger game. In the year 2025 alone, the crypto industry has seen over $2.1 billion disappear in a tidal wave of attacks. The Bybit breach in February wiped away more than $1.5 billion in Ethereum in a single night. BitGet, another heavyweight, lost $100 million in an exploit that sent shockwaves across the industry. And these are just the headline-grabbing heists. Beneath the surface, hundreds of smaller attacks chip away at confidence every month. So what happened at Nobitex? On June 18th, a day that seemed ordinary, a well-known blockchain investigator named ZachXBT noticed something odd: large, unexplained outflows from wallets linked to Nobitex. The attackers were not shy. They created a custom wallet address, a so-called vanity address, emblazoned with a profanity directly aimed at Nobitex and Iranian authorities. It was as if the hackers were leaving a neon sign, daring the world to notice. Hours later, Nobitex itself confirmed the worst fears. Unauthorized access had been detected in its infrastructure, specifically targeting its hot wallets and internal communications. The technical teams moved fast, scrambling to isolate systems, migrate assets, and contain the fallout. But the damage was already done. Here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn. The group claiming responsibility calls itself Geopolitical, translated as Predatory Sparrow, a pro-Israel hacking collective known for its digital warfare campaigns. In their public statement, they accused Nobitex of helping Iran's regime evade international sanctions and finance terrorism. But unlike most hackers, who would typically try to launder and spend the stolen digital assets, Geopolitical did something almost unheard of. They burned the loot. The funds were sent to wallet addresses that are mathematically impossible to access, effectively destroying the money forever. This act was not about profit. It was a digital scorched earth tactic, sending a message that echoed far beyond the blockchain. This was about power, influence, and the weaponization of technology. Security experts quickly turned a spotlight on Nobitex's internal vulnerabilities. Hakan Unal, a lead analyst at Cybers, pointed to a critical failure in access controls as the root cause, a lapse that left the door wide open for this devastating attack. Ronghui Gu, co-founder of Certic, drew attention to a broader problem: a rising tide of wallet compromises, mishandled cryptographic keys, and poorly managed internal systems across the industry. As hacker sophistication grows, the lines between financial crime and digital warfare are blurring. But why is a hack in Iran causing global alarm? The answer is rooted in geopolitics. In recent years, the digital battlefield has become a theater for state and non-state actors to project influence, settle scores, and destabilize adversaries. Geopolitical is not new to this game. The group previously claimed responsibility for an attack on Bank SEPA, one of Iran's oldest and most important banks, temporarily disrupting banking services nationwide. Rob Joyce, former cybersecurity director at the National Security Agency, warned that attacks on financial institutions, whether banks or exchanges, can have cascading effects, potentially destabilizing entire economies. In a region as volatile as the Middle East, such attacks can ignite tensions, drive capital flight, and threaten the livelihoods of millions. Let's zoom out for a moment. The crypto world is no stranger to attacks. The Lazarus Group, a shadowy hacking collective linked to North Korea, has stolen hundreds of millions from exchanges and DeFi platforms over the past decade. Team TNT and APT28, better known as Fancy Bear, are just a few of the infamous names in a rogues gallery of cybercriminals targeting digital assets. Every year, billions of dollars are siphoned off. Yet paradoxically, the crypto market continues to grow. As of mid-2025, the global crypto market is valued at over $3.2 trillion, with daily trading volumes exceeding 120 billion. Even in the wake of dramatic hacks, investor appetite remains strong, driven by the promise of decentralization, innovation, and financial freedom. But the Nobitex hack is different. The explicit political motivations, the public destruction of stolen funds, and the high-profile targets suggest a new era, one where financial infrastructure is weaponized, not just for profit, but for influence and disruption. This raises urgent questions for the future. First, what does this mean for security? Experts predict a new wave of regulatory crackdowns on centralized exchanges. Governments around the world are realizing these platforms are not just financial intermediaries. They are now critical infrastructure and, by extension, potential targets in global cyber conflicts. Already, regulators in Europe, Asia, and North America are reviewing standards, demanding stricter compliance, and threatening harsh penalties for lapses. Håkan Unal warns, when critical access controls fail, attackers don't just steal funds, they send shockwaves across the geopolitical landscape. Centralized exchanges may soon be forced to overhaul their security frameworks from the ground up, investing millions, or in some cases tens of millions, in cutting-edge monitoring, multi-signature wallets, and zero-trust architectures. We can expect to see the rapid adoption of quantum-resistant encryption, which is designed to withstand attacks from next-generation quantum computers that could, in theory, crack today's cryptographic defenses. Artificial intelligence will play a growing role, with real-time behavioral analytics and anomaly detection catching suspicious activity before it spirals out of control. At the same time, the rise of high-profile hacks like Nobitex and Bybit is likely to accelerate the migration toward decentralized finance, or DeFi. Unlike their centralized counterparts, DeFi protocols operate on open-source smart contracts, reducing the risk of a single point of failure. Users retain control of their private keys, and governance is distributed among a global community. The hope is that, by removing centralized custodians, the entire system becomes more resilient to attack. But DeFi is not a silver bullet. Earlier this year, Cetus Protocol, a prominent DeFi project, was hit by a $223 million spoof token exploit, draining funds in a matter of minutes due to a smart contract vulnerability. As hackers adapt, no platform, centralized or decentralized, is immune. So, what are the possible futures for crypto security? One scenario is a golden age of innovation. The Nobitex hack could be the wake-up call the industry needs, sparking massive investment in cybersecurity research and development. Universities, startups, and established tech giants may pour resources into building robust, agile defenses. Everything from hardware security modules to biometric authentication and federated learning systems that enable exchanges to share threat intelligence without compromising user privacy. International cooperation will be key. Already, investigators like ZachXBT are working with law enforcement, regulators, and other exchanges to track malicious actors across borders, freezing assets and dismantling criminal networks in real time. But there's a darker scenario as well. If hackers continue to outpace defenders, confidence in the crypto ecosystem could begin to erode. Each high-profile breach chips away at trust, potentially slowing global adoption and stalling innovation. Investors may pull their assets into cold storage or abandon digital currencies altogether, fearing they are too risky for everyday use. The specter of burned funds, millions of dollars simply destroyed, serves as a stark reminder that, in this new world, financial warfare is not just theoretical. It is happening now, with real consequences. The regulatory landscape is also shifting. In the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission are ramping up enforcement actions, targeting exchanges that fail to meet stringent security and anti-money laundering requirements. In the European Union, the markets in crypto assets, Regulation is setting new standards for transparency, risk management, and consumer protection. Countries like Singapore, South Korea, and the United Arab Emirates are racing to position themselves as safe havens, offering robust legal frameworks while attracting talent and capital. But as rules tighten, smaller exchanges in less regulated jurisdictions may find it harder to compete, raising the risk that users will flock to shadowy, unregulated platforms that offer little protection when things go wrong. For users, the lessons are becoming clear. No exchange, no matter how big, how technologically advanced, or how well-funded, is truly immune from attack. The best defense is proactive vigilance. Always use two-factor authentication and choose strong, unique passwords for every account. Consider storing the majority of your assets in cold wallets, devices, or paper keys kept entirely offline, rather than trusting them to any exchange, whether centralized or decentralized. Stay informed by following security updates from trusted sources in the blockchain community, and educate yourself about the latest scams and phishing tactics. If you operate a business, work in technology, or manage any digital assets, now is the time to audit your security protocols. Train your teams regularly, invest in endpoint protection, and build a culture of security awareness that treats every employee as a potential target. Remember, as the Nobitex hack shows, attackers are endlessly creative, often leveraging social engineering, supply chain attacks, and even insider threats to breach the most sophisticated defenses. Let's dig deeper into the geopolitical implications. The Nobitex incident is a textbook case of how digital tools are being weaponized in the 21st century. The attack was not just about draining wallets, it was a direct challenge to the financial networks underpinning the Iranian regime, with attackers openly accusing Nobitex of facilitating terrorism financing and sanctions evasion. By burning the stolen assets, Gonjeshke Darande broadcast a message. The real objective was disruption, not enrichment. In a sense, this was a cyber equivalent of a surgical strike, highly targeted, symbolic, and intended to send a message to both friends and foes. This kind of digital warfare is not confined to the Middle East. Over the past decade, we've seen similar tactics deployed in Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, and even North America. The NotPetya and WannaCry ransomware attacks, for example, caused billions of dollars in damage, crippling hospitals, companies, and infrastructure around the world. In many cases, the lines between criminal activity and state-sponsored sabotage are blurred, making attribution difficult and retaliation fraught with risk. The Nobitex hack adds a new chapter to this evolving playbook, demonstrating that cryptocurrency exchanges are now frontline targets in an increasingly complex web of cyber conflict. So what does all this mean for the future? Can exchanges defend against weaponized cyber attacks? The reality is, absolute security is a myth. Every system can be breached, given enough time, motivation, and resources. But each breach pushes the industry to raise its standards, close loopholes, and invent new safeguards. The Nobitex hack will almost certainly accelerate investment in advanced security, foster unprecedented global collaboration, and encourage users to seek out decentralized, self-custodial solutions. We may also see new insurance products emerge, offering coverage against hacks and losses, though premiums are likely to be steep. Here's a secret that few outsiders understand. Many of the world's biggest hacks are not about money. They are about influence, sabotage, or sending a political message. In the Nobitex case, the attackers intentionally burned the stolen assets, making it clear their goal was not profit, but power and disruption. As the boundaries between finance and geopolitics blur, your best defense is knowledge, staying informed, asking tough questions, and demanding transparency from the platforms you use. To wrap up, the Nobitex hack is a wake-up call, not just for Iran, but for the entire global financial system. It is a stark reminder that in the digital age, security is everyone's responsibility, and the stakes are higher than ever. If you found this deep dive helpful, hit subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments, and let's continue the conversation. What do you think is the future of crypto security? Can the industry adapt, or are we entering an era of perpetual cyber conflict?